Ed Clifford, the sort of oracle of the Ozarks, if you will, one of the many wizards behind the curtain of this Oz land that we currently inhabit. I met Ed years and years ago when I was executive director of Fayetteville Downtown Partners and working specifically focused on the issues of downtown, but Ed always had his eye on everything else going on. He was very omnipresent in a lot of the activity, and this is back in 2003, 2004, when a lot of these conversations of place and economic development were just sort of a whisper in the wind. And Ed was oftentimes the one whispering that very thing.
In 2005, we had all been put on notice that something really big was to happen here in Bentonville, and that was with Alice Walton's announcement for Crystal Bridges. So we knew in many fronts that Bentonville wasn't ready for what was coming down the pike. We collectively were brainstorming ideas and looking for plans to make this a place that could accommodate, one, the crowd, but would be a welcoming place for visitors from not only throughout the U.S., but throughout the world.
When I was hired 20 years ago, I was the CEO and president of Visit Bentonville, as I am now, in a much different environment, much smaller. We were just a business destination, not the business and leisure that we are now. Ed was one of the first people that walked into my office and introduced himself. I think as the chamber president, that's one of the things that I think was important to him, is making sure people felt connected. But I really relied on him as we went through the transition in the first 6 months to a year. He was my sounding board.
One of the things that we did that Ed really instituted was the Monday morning meeting. He would identify the stakeholders, and we would meet every Monday morning, and in a non-threatening environment, we would each share what we had going on, and we would sometimes make suggestions to one of the players on how they could do it better or give them accolades for what they were doing. We tried to bring in everyone and talk about what we could do in many regards to prepare ourselves for what we thought would be an influx of visitors and people coming to appreciate what I call a hidden jewel.
I think what Ed brought to the table was there was honesty. I think he was direct in what the direction we should go in, and always really was very respectful in the way he spoke to myself and others. He always cut through the noise and got us to the final result of our project or initiative, and I always valued that.
The thing that I adore about Ed is that even in the midst of a meeting, you can always see that mischievous glint in his eye. Somehow he's going to get something done, but at the same point, you know that there's always something coming next. And I think that speaks to Ed's vision.
Upon the opening of Crystal Bridges in 2011, we began to get the taste of what it would be like to have an influx of an additional hundreds of thousands of people visiting Bentonville. Our vision, probably for all of that, was too small. What we thought was big was small in comparison to what reality became. And people saying, I've never been here before, but I like it, I'll be back. Or people saying, I think this is someplace I want to live. All of those things were translated into a fantastic economic impact.
Ed, I think, put himself at the forefront of change before the, large evolutionary change came to Northwest Arkansas. His fingerprints are everywhere, across Bentonville, across Springdale, across Rogers.
Ed was a great example of a leader in our community and the commitment he had to making our region better.
I think Ed had a magic way about him, about supporting intentional market-based solutions that addressed and manifested the public policy that was trying to move forward, the nonprofit sector recognizing their role in the conversation, but never forgetting that the private market was such an important part of that three-legged stool and fostering that.
Well, I think we can very easily say that it was because of Ed Clifford that the key players in Bentonville's future and current growth were brought together by Ed for the purpose of making everything better.
A lot of folks might not know Ed, but they certainly have been touched by his network and influence across the region. Ed deserves this honor because he influences both small business, large business, foundations, large grantees, large donors, large organizations across this community that have come together through a lot of Ed's networking and relationship building and have created one of the most high growth, high potential, highly regarded regions in the U.S.